Host on camera, calm but confident tone. When people talk about the Trump administration, the conversation usually jumps straight to controversy, tweets, or political drama. But according to writer and commentator Kaylee McGhee White, there's one major achievement that rarely gets the attention it deserves. She calls it one of the Trump administration's unsung successes, something that quietly reshaped policy while much of the media was focused elsewhere. Visual. Archival footage of the White House during the Trump years, slow zoom. Kaylee McGhee White argues that beyond the headlines, the Trump administration delivered real results in areas that don't always generate viral news clips. One of the biggest examples she points to is the reshaping of the federal judiciary. While critics focused on daily political battles, the administration was steadily appointing judges at an unprecedented pace, leaving behind a long-lasting impact on the American legal system. Host voiceovers demonstrate visuals of Senate confirmations and court buildings. Over 4 years, the Trump administration confirmed hundreds of federal judges, including 3 Supreme Court justices. These appointments weren't flashy, and they didn't dominate nightly news cycles, but they fundamentally altered the balance of the courts for decades to come. McGhee White argues that this strategy showed a clear understanding of how long-term power actually works in Washington. Host back on camera. Another overlooked success, according to McGhee White, was regulatory reform. The administration aggressively rolled back regulations that many businesses argued were slowing economic growth. While critics warned of risks, supporters say these changes helped small businesses expand, reduced costs, and contributed to job growth before the pandemic disrupted the global economy. Visual. Small businesses opening, factories running, workers on the job. For many Americans, these changes weren't theoretical. They were felt in paychecks, hiring decisions, and local communities. McGhee White notes that deregulation doesn't make for dramatic television, but it directly affects how Americans live and work every day. Host voiceover, visuals of border security and policy documents. Immigration policy is another area she highlights. While the debate around the border was loud and polarizing, McGhee White argues that behind the scenes, the administration enforced existing laws more consistently than previous administrations. Policies like Remain in Mexico and stricter asylum standards, she says, reduced abuse of the system and restored a sense of order, even as they sparked fierce political opposition. Host on camera, reflective tone. According to McGhee White, the reason these achievements are unsung isn't because they lacked importance, it's because they didn't fit the media narrative. Structural reforms, judicial appointments, and regulatory changes don't always come with dramatic visuals or emotional soundbites, but they shape the country long after a presidency ends. Visual. Timeline graphic showing long-term impacts, courts, economy, policy. She argues that history often looks back differently than the daily news cycle. What feels controversial in the moment can later be seen as strategic, while quieter decisions end up having the greatest influence. In that sense, the Trump administration's focus on lasting institutional change may be one of its most significant legacies. Host closing on camera. Whether you support Donald Trump or strongly oppose him, McGhee White's argument challenges us to look beyond the noise. Politics isn't just about speeches and scandals, it's about decisions that shape the future in ways we may not immediately notice. And sometimes, the biggest successes are the ones that don't make the loudest headlines.